so it's called the T6 Texan. In Canada, it's called a Harvard. If a young pilot could master this monster, they'd get their free pass to some of those high-performance beauties of World War II. But passing the Harvard is harder than it looks.
Them boys just had a wild landing. I'll bet you there's some wide eyes in that thing.
Between them, 10,300 hours logged in the air. Robert Rooster Riker, Air Force test pilot, 10,000 hours. Mark Miller, wildlife filmmaker, 300 hours. Two men, two very different worlds, one love. It's time to kick the tires, light the fires, and get this puppy in the air. They are the Airdogs. They are some of the sexiest aircraft of the Second World War. The P51 Mustang, the Spitfire, the Hawker Hurricane. Legendary fighters that are fast and furious. But before you'd climb into the cockpit of one of these combat beauties, first you'd have to graduate from the Harvard.
It's a big airplane with a lot of power.
With its massive radial engine and 600 horsepower, the Harvard was the training aircraft for pilots between 1938 and 1955.
This airplane was known sort of by two names. In the British Commonwealth training program, this was known as the Harvard. If you were in the American program, it was known as the T6 or the AT6. And AT stood for Advanced Trainer.
For this mission, Mark and Rooster have come to this prairie airfield, home of the legendary Peach brothers. Warren and brother Kent are part of a family that's been in the aviation biz for 50 years.
Is your insurance up to date?
These are people who take airplanes that are often rusty heaps, and they'll turn them into beautiful airplanes.
You might recall Kent's the guy who tried to teach the Airdogs his insane air show act, landing an airplane on a motorhome.
You're doing all right, man. Don't force it. Okay, you've lost it. Let's go. Whoa.
This is easier. This is kind of more relaxed than that.
These guys live and breathe vintage aircraft.
I love coming down here and flying because it's all about flying here. There's nothing else going on.
And the Airdogs hope some of that rubs off on them.
I want you to get used to looking side to side.
As they learn to fly this 1939 RCAF Harvard.
This airplane actually was previously registered in Canada.
Rooster and Mark are following the flight path of a typical wartime pilot.
Try to put myself into the head of a young pilot who might have only had a fifth of the hours I have. And yet here he is flying something that has 600 horsepower.
Harvards once filled the skies over military airfields across North America.
21,000 of these airplanes were built, and every one of those trained hundreds of young pilots.
Now Rooster already knows flying with the Peach brothers is not going to be a walk in the park.
You are going to be starting the airplane, running the radios, running the gear.
I've flown with Warren, okay? I know what he's like. Mark needs to check his ego at the door. He needs to grow a little bit of alligator skin because he's going to beat him up a little bit in there. I mean, he's not going to go easy on him.
I can shut this whole operation down anytime I want.
But if the boys can survive this, they'll move on to the ultimate prize in flying, the P51 Mustang.
The dream for most guys is to get into those really high-performance airplanes, but you got to get through this. This is an obstacle, and I've got to get past it. I'm feeling just a little bit overwhelmed right now with everything.
This is big boy stuff, right? This isn't, I mean, this isn't a $150 out there at the flying club.
This is an old airplane. It's in great condition, but, you know, airplanes break, and I don't want to be the guy who screws up.
I think when he first got in the airplane, it all of a sudden probably hit him how big of a step he was taking.
Somebody watch these wings.
The boys have a lot of ground to cover in just a few days, so there's no time to waste.
Is the prop clear?
With Mark strapped in, Warren runs him through the start procedure. And the Golden Girl growls to life.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen. All for free. No subscription required.
As soon as you start that airplane, you feel it. The whole airplane shudders. That is a lot of horsepower.
Oil pressure? Pressure's coming up.
This may be the toughest airplane Mark's ever had to learn to fly.
Go ahead and put a little power in, bring the bottom. There you go, right there.
To complicate matters, Mark is the only one who has access to flaps and gear. Warren's riding in the back, so he only has basic controls.
If we did have an emergency, I mean, I'm the guy that's going to make or break this day, and that's a little bit of pressure.
Leave the power up while you're doing that. Yeah, leave the power up. A little bit of trouble.
And one other thing, the Harvard has just had new brakes installed. Warren says they are very, very touchy.
And just tap the brake.
If Mark taps those brakes when they're at speed or on start or when the engine's up in power, it knows the airplane over. That's all bad.
Think you're riding the brakes, Mark. Let it roll ahead a little bit and then just tap the brake that you want to use, okay?
They're barely 2 minutes into the mission, and already Mark is wreaking havoc on the airfield.
You got to be very cognizant of your prop blast. That little airplane behind us just got beat up a little bit, so you're fine.
At this rate, they'll be back tomorrow morning.
Even with Warren in the back seat, the Harvard is a lot of airplane for our junior Airdog.
I just found it difficult even just getting it starting to roll.
I told him, I said, well, this is just taxiing.
Not making it easy on me, though.
You said not to make it easy on you, didn't you?
I did not say that. Rooster said that.
But Mark is determined to handle the Harvard. He knows he may have bit off more than he can chew, but this is the only way to move up to the Mustang.
I was handling the radios.
431, you're clear for takeoff. 431, clear for takeoff.
I was handling a complicated new system. I mean, I may have bit off more than I can chew.
You're riding the brakes, Mark. All right. Put your feet right down on the floor. You don't need brakes.
I got them on the floor.
I was rattled from the moment I started the thing.
Okay, this one's short. We'll get you off. Stop. Easy. Okay.
The Airdogs have yellow fever.
It's a serious airplane to fly. There's no doubt about it.
The Harvard is one of the top military combat trainers of all time. And the Airdogs are getting a hands-on history lesson.
This is the most ponies I've ever handled. 600 horsepower.
If Mark and Rooster get a passing grade, they'll be cleared to fly one of the fastest fighters of World War II, the Mustang.
If I fail at this, I can forget about ever getting beyond this airplane.
Mark's on his first flight,
Leave the power up while you're doing that.
but so far, he's having trouble just taxiing.
You're riding the brakes, Mark. All right.
Actually, this trainer may train him.
Instructor Warren Peach is in the back.
You didn't have the stick quite all the way ahead, Mark.
He really needs to listen carefully to what Warren's giving him in terms of advice.
The Harvard was purposely designed to be difficult to handle. The idea was to get pilots ready for more powerful Mustangs and Spitfires.
Now hold right here so the tower doesn't think you're pulling out front, okay?
Warren demos the first takeoff. It's important that Mark understand that the massive prop and engine will cause the airplane to pull to the right.
To repair these airplanes, it's a lot harder to find left wings than right wings. Everybody busts the left wings off. I don't want to be that guy.
Okay, you're up, Mark. You're up.
Less than a minute after takeoff, Warren hands it over.
Okay, you got the controls, Mark. I have the airplane.
On the ground, the Harvard was a bear. In the air, Mark realizes she's a whole other animal.
I didn't really feel I had a good handle on the airplane.
No worries. You're feeling the airplane out. I'm not back here giving you a check ride yet.
The lesson starts with simple, shallow turns.
Rolling left.
But Mark is struggling to hold attitude and altitude.
Right about there.
On the ground, Rooster can only guess how his fellow Airdog is doing.
That flight suit won't be dry, let's put it that way. That flight suit's going to be wet. Just hope he can handle it.
Why don't you give me about 20 degrees of flat? Whoa. You're active, isn't it?
But as Mark spends more time in the airplane, his confidence starts to grow.
You feel it? Yep.
They try steep turns and slow flight.
Yeah, it's a beautiful flying airplane.
Boy, it sure is.
I think it intimidated him to start out with. As we flew the airplane out there, that started to fall away a little bit. Lower the nose. There you go.
After an hour in the air, they head back to the airfield and set up for landing.
A little bit too much power reduction there. We're sorry.
Getting it close to the ground is where the action is. It's not a very forgiving airplane.
The Harvard requires a seriously steep approach.
Landing gear is down and locked.
A lot of things happen in a very short period of time, so Warren demos the landing.
I did, however, lose the runway. I can't see it at all.
Okay, to your left.
He's back in the trunk of this thing. He can't see jack.
I got the runway again now. Okay. Let's bring the airplane down. and I'm going to bring the airplane to a full stop so that we can reconfigure.
It's going to be Mark taking off on this one, so we'll see how he does.
Right there, keep it straight, yeah. Bring the tail down, fly it off. Here we go. There you go, you're airborne, dude.
Mark's takeoff is good and straight.
Be a little more left rudder in there when you get around the corner. Left rudder.
But now the real work, getting the airplane back on final and safely back on the ground.
Right where you're at, Art. A nice, easy flare.
But with Warren watching closely, Mark sets it down. Not perfect, but not bad for a first-timer.
Apparently I wasn't straight coming down the runway on my landing.
Tail will shoot me a little bit because you're getting a little bit of a side load on stuff.
He's going to sit down. He's going to talk to me about that.
How was it? There's a lot of management just even on the ground there.
Yeah.
Mark should be happy. You'll need to improve, but overall it was a pretty good flight.
There is a lot to learn in this airplane, and and you did a good job for your first trip. If he shows me tomorrow, without me coaching him, what he did tonight, then we're well on our way to up to the Mustang. Maybe.
One Airdog down, another to go.
It is a tricky airplane to fly. If it was very easy to fly, it wouldn't be doing its job.
Tomorrow, it's Rooster's turn. At first light, the classic trainer is rolled out for another day of schooling the Airdogs.
The staples of his instruction are fear, sarcasm, and ridicule.
We'll hear the rooster crow a little.
Now, Rooster's going into this with a slight advantage. A few years ago, he did a ride in a T6, the American version of the Harvard.
The switch placements are a little bit different, but the basic airframe and engine are identical.
You can tell a Harvard from a T6 by looking at the exhaust. The Harvard uses its exhaust to send heat into the cockpit. Nice when training in the winter.
So here's the American version. Nothing going into that airplane at all.
But Rooster won't need that today. Warren is planning to give our boy a substantial workout.
Walk me through it a little bit.
Drop clear. No more than 1,200 RPM until we get some heat.
Even though Rooster has lots of experience, he needs to remember this isn't supposed to be easy.
Cool, man, while we're flying this thing.
I'd rather have you pay attention to keeping the airplane centered up and flying the airplane.
Now we're getting there.
There we go.
Tail up. Okay, it's ready to fly. And I got my chase.
Pull the tail back down, fly it off. There you go. That's good. Lead it right there.
Rooster gets the Harvard into the air. But 10 seconds into the flight, he's already in trouble. On a busy airfield, with small aircraft and big airliners, a bright yellow piece of history is turning heads.
This is a high-performance airplane. It's never supposed to be taken lightly.
The Airdogs are in flight school on a classic World War II trainer, the Harvard.
I have the airplane. Let's climb up to 4,000 feet at the current power setting, okay?
On his first flight, Mark found out the Harvard can be one tough teacher.
Oh, don't worry.
Just because it looks cute and yellow, don't assume it's easy.
And we're here to be trained. We're here to learn.
Now it's Rooster's turn. With instructor Warren Peach in the back,
Feels like you're riding a brick.
No, I'm not.
Rooster can't let the big yellow bird get the better of him.
There we go.
Getting a feel for its 600 horsepower, the Airdog puts the trainer through its paces. Rooster pours on the power to keep up with our camera plane.
Whoa. Okay.
That gets Warren's attention.
You're fine. I thought you were pulling the prop back. Sorry about that.
Turns out it's no big deal. In fact, Rooster aces his upper air work. Makes it look like he's been flying the Harvard for years.
Okay, gear down.
Okay, gear is selected down, speed checks.
Rooster heads back to the field for his first landing.
Coming in steep, eh? My problem is I don't know what a good landing is.
How are we doing?
We're off to the left here.
Okay.
Correcting.
Hold it off. Oh, you're fine. Beautiful. Let's prepare the airplane for takeoff.
No bits of airplane on the runway, so I assume that's a good landing, eh?
It might have looked good to the untrained eye, but Rooster knows he can do better.
It touched down before I wanted it to, so obviously I wasn't recognizing something.
So he heads around the patch one more time to try it again.
Nobody coming in to kill us, except for me.
He wasn't happy with his touchdowns, which is why we made an additional takeoff and landing.
Oh, you was late on that flare. I want to get that flare.
No, I'm not. That's not good with me. I got to go around and go. Go ahead.
On center line, winds from the right. Son of a...
On Rooster's third try, things go from bad to bouncy.
I want it to be nice.
Third one really wasn't any better than the others.
Even in skilled hands, the Harvard can be one tough old bird.
How did he do? He did all right?
Yeah.
Bounced a couple times the last one?
He's not happy with the landings, but they were very sufficient.
Overall, Warren's impressed.
I'd be comfortable turning Rooster loose with the airplane, let him go.
But Mark still needs a lot of training.
What I didn't realize is they did purposely make it hard to fly to get guys ready for the Mustangs.
If he wants a shot at the Mustang, he knows he'll have to do a lot better on his second hop.
The reason I'm here is to give you as much of a chance as I can to do as much flying in the Mustang as you can.
Show me what you know.
While Mark gets ready to fly, Warren cooks up a surprise for his student.
Okay.
When you see Goldie show up, bounce him.
Okay, we're going to put the Harvard in a T6 formation. We're going to surprise Mark with that.
This is going to be fun.
As far as Mark knows, Rooster and Cantor just going for a quick rip in the T6.
Well, Rooster, you know, I'm pretty new in this airplane myself.
Yeah,
and so between us, we've got about 15 minutes.
All right. I'll just bring it up a little bit and get on the wire. All right, Mark. Okay, ready? Yeah, it's showtime. Okay. Are you ready? I'm ready.
For Mark, this is do or die. It's time to show he can fly.
Fly it off. Okay, that's plenty of aileron. There you are. You're airborne, dude.
The stakes are high.
We're looking good. Okay, level.
This Airdog knows if he wants to get his hands on the Mustang,
Go ahead and turn right. Right.
he'll have to take the Harvard for one heck of a ride.
Keep your eye on the ball. Stay on task. Okay. I'll come up there and rip your hair off if I have to.
Let's do it.
The Airdogs have enrolled in Harvard University.
This airplane, in many ways, is almost more important than the Spitfire.
Mark and Rooster are learning to fly a classic military training aircraft, the Harvard.
The purpose of the airplane was specifically to give them the tools that they needed to fly high-performance aircraft.
Hey, did I tell you I got a bad eye and I have no depth perception?
Both have now flown the trainer once.
Whoa, pretty reactive, isn't it?
But because his first flight was a little shaky, Mark gets one more shot.
I've never flown anything with 600 horsepower before, so that's a big radial engine.
Fly the airplane off. Okay, that's plenty of aileron. There you are. You're airborne, dude.
If this doesn't go well, he won't get to fly his dream plane, the more powerful P51 Mustang.
There's going to have to be a big steepening of the curve from here on out.
We're a little bit high, but that's better than low.
So far, his second flight is going much better.
Keep it straight. There you go. Perfect.
I had two really beautiful landings, unassisted, two beautiful takeoffs.
I was doing as much as I could to stay out of Mark's way, keeping my mouth shut and letting him make the decisions of when, where, and how to do things.
But just when Mark thinks he has nothing to worry about,
Hey, dude, look on your right wing.
a surprise visitor pulls up alongside.
Get him away from me.
Today, Mark, work off your right wing.
And there's Rooster in the T6 flying off my wing.
Looks like the whole canopy's fisted up.
Mark may be getting comfortable in the Harvard, but tight formation is another story.
Show Krausenauer, man, all right?
I think he was a little bit nervous about the close proximity.
We're flying a three-plane formation, and I've been in with this airplane for 2 hours. That's right. Stay on task. You're the man right now. We can't screw up in this position. We got a lot of sheet metal moving around.
We flew around for about 40 minutes. It was just fantastic.
For Mark to be able to lead a formation of 2 Harvards around the countryside, pretty neat.
I'll see you guys later.
It's a spectacular way to wrap up training on the Harvard.
I want you to come in here, get your speeds, get your altitudes, configure the airplane, get her done.
Mark's final landing isn't perfect.
What are we doing? Too high, you're too high.
But it's a big improvement over his first flight.
That was all you, Mark. I was on the controls, but I didn't put any inputs in them.
He flared just a little high and caught it with power, but I would have preferred that he would have caught it with power, flown the airplane down to the ground, and re-flared the airplane.
Nothing bad happened. Actually got a pretty good landing on it. I actually heard the wheels chirp.
As for Rooster, well, he doesn't know it yet,
Here, down.
but he's about to get a wake-up call. His approach looks pretty good. Rooster wants to finally nail a landing.
There we go, folks.
But as he flies over the numbers, things start to go sideways, literally.
Crap.
The airplane pitches to one side. A wing dips. If it hits the ground, the airplane could flip.
It just about got me. I should have just went around.
I'll bet you there's some wide eyes in that thing. They flared way high and it touched down sideways and they had the left main off and them boys just had a wild landing.
It was a real eye-opener for me.
If Rooster was hoping to make a good impression, this is not the way to impress Warren.
This is the cardinal rule in tailwheel airplanes. Never, ever, ever let it get crooked on landing, and I let it get crooked. When I touched, it swung on me, and fortunately, able to get it back real quick.
Mark is one happy student.
Good job.
Rooster, not so much.
I knew I'd flared high, so I'm like, I'll soften it with a little power. But it was higher than I thought it was.
Well, I said,
and then it
Rooster,
started
you're
going
high.
sideways, and I never picked up on the sideways until it just touched, and then it swung.
I was thinking, Rooster, get this thing down next to the ground. What are you doing?
No matter how long you've been flying, no matter how good you are always learning.
You do that in a Mustang, you're tearing it up. I mean, it's junk.
Can't let your guard down. I mean, he recovered the airplane, and, you know, someone like me probably wouldn't have known what to do, and I would have bent metal.
For once, Miller's going to be able to poke me in the chest and say, what were you thinking? I guess we're done flying together for the rest of our lives.
Goodbye.
The good news? Well, everything turned out okay. Rooster logs a bruised ego.
Rooster's buying beer tonight.
The Airdogs log a couple more airplanes. But one important question remains. Are they good enough to graduate to the Mustang?
I think we're ready to put them in the back seat of a Mustang. I think that's where we'll go from here.
So the Airdogs have their next mission, the P51 Mustang.
If they thought this Harvard was a challenge, the P51 is going to be a mountain to climb.
The Mustang is something to look forward to. The Harvard is something they won't ever forget. The nasty yellow trainer that taught the Airdogs a tough lesson.
It's a big airplane, and it's relatively docile if you do everything right, but you get behind the curve, like what happened to Rooster today, and it'll kill you.
I got to buzz my cousin's house. Ah, baby.
Doesn't get much sexier than a P51 Mustang, World War II's ultimate fighter.
We're looking for traffic. We're looking for the enemy.
This is basically the last propeller-driven fighter plane. Next step, jet age.
I'm Rooster Reichert, and welcome to Airdogs, where we're flying P51 Mustangs.
You're going too fast. Slow it up.
Between them, 10,300 hours logged in the air. Robert Rooster Reichert, Air Force test pilot, 10,000 hours. Mark Miller, wildlife filmmaker, 300 hours. Two men, two very different worlds, one love. It's time to kick the tires, light the fires, and get this puppy in the air. They are the Airdogs. It's fast, loud, and has an unmistakable profile.
It's just a beautiful looking airplane.
One of the greatest fighters of the Second World War, the P51 Mustang.
It just looks mean.
In World War II, the fighter proved whoever controlled the skies could win on the ground. The British built the Hurricane and later the Spitfire. The Americans put their resources into the P51 Mustang.
So how fast would an airplane like this have gone? Don't go faster than 505 miles an hour.
To learn more about these fighters, the Airdogs are sniffing around the amazing collection at Vintage Wings, checking out the planes that were big influences on the Mustang.
There you go, it's a Spitfire.
Veteran test pilot Tim Leslie is on hand to help the boys learn about the three main fighters of World War II.
The Hurricane, designed around 1936. This is the flying tin openers, and that's because the guns on this thing were designed to rip open tanks.
The Hurricane was a fighter that marked the beginning of the end of the biplane era.
So look how fat this wing is.
Exactly.
That fat wing made the Hurricane easy to control. It was low and slow. It cost the airplane in top-end airspeed. Eventually, the Royal Air Force needed a faster, lighter, more nimble fighter, and the Spitfire was born.
Spitfire, you're looking to take off, go straight up, fight overhead, land, come back down.
So this is a sports car.
This is a sports car.
And that's the muscle car.
That's the muscle car.
In 1941, the Americans adopted another British commission called the Mustang. She could fly long range. She was perfect for bomber escort. All three fighters had very different roles, but all three shared the same engine, the Rolls-Royce Merlin, the exact same power plant that pushed the mighty Lancaster into the history books.
I mean, I can't think of anybody that doesn't want to jump into a P51 Mustang and go fly it. It's just ridiculous.
They are a sexy-looking airplane. They are beautiful.
Rooster and Mark can drool all they want, but there's no way they'll get to fly this one.
This one's only got one set of controls.
With less than 200 P51s still flying, finding a Mustang with dual controls could be mission impossible. So Rooster calls in the big guns.
I'll come up there and rip your hair off if I have to.
And within 2 weeks, their old buddy Warren Peach solves the problem. Warren's that tough-as-nails instructor and historian who taught the boys to fly the Harvard.
Go ahead and turn right.
The Harvard was the same frontline trainer that prepared pilots for the Mustangs and Spitfires of World War II. The question now, are the Airdogs really ready for the ultimate fighter?
Woohoo!
With 1,000 more horsepower to tame, this may be a case of be careful what you wish for.
And I'm dealing with triple the power now.
If they thought this Harvard was a challenge, the P51's going to be a mountain to climb for. Welcome back,
for bringing us back.
The Airdogs have been warned. Still, they're eager to get a closer look at what they'll be flying.
So you got us a Mustang.
I think we'll go out in the shop and take a look at it. What do you think?
And there's one more surprise for Rooster and Mark. Warren has rustled up not just one Mustang, but a match set. One for each Airdog.
Well, I failed to tell you that, huh? I think there's 120 Mustangs flying in the world, something like that. And we've got 2 of them sitting on the ramp today that you guys are going to have an opportunity to get in and do some flying.
Oh, man, look at that.
First up, a Mustang named Rooster.
We painted it on just for you, Rooster.
Seriously?
Yes.
This P51D model is the pride and joy of Toby McPherson.
Toby,
Thank you, man.
Hi, Toby. Hi.
It took Toby 18 years to get the parts and 4 years to rebuild her.
every time I fly it, I got to pinch myself, you know, that we made it happen.
Which one am I going to get to fly?
Well, Mark, let's take you out here to Dakota Kid.
Faithfully restored, the Dakota Kid is named after a pilot who shot down 3 Nazi fighters.
So he had 3 kills in this?
Yeah, 3 confirmed and I think 5 probables.
Warren will be their instructor again.
I consider it an unbelievable honor to get to fly this airplane.
Both P51s are equipped with dual controls, which means you can fly from both front and back seats.
You're going to get a real good feel for the airplane. The block in this was actually made by Maytag. When you say it runs like a washing machine, here you go.
Is that right, eh?
Yeah.
Combined, the boys are playing with $4 million in sheet metal, not to mention a serious chunk of aviation history. This is no game.
It does have its places where it'll bite you.
Different wing than the Harvard, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
That thin wing was built for speed.
The approach speed alone is remarkably fast compared to the airplanes of its era. As you cross the numbers at 120 indicated, things are going to be happening pretty fast.
Boy, I don't want to think about that yet.
It's a lot of speed in a touchy airplane. Both our Airdogs should be getting nervous.
The stakes are huge. You wreck an airplane, that's probably going to be one of the low points in your life.
This thing has got some serious jam. If you go to sleep on this airplane, it is going to reach up and bite your ass.
Whoa, big fella.
Dawn, and the Airdogs are chasing a dream.
Just the finish on the airplane is beautiful. Look at that.
On the ground or in the sky, the P51 Mustang is every pilot's fantasy.
I have to pinch myself and just say, hey, you know, dude, we're going flying P51 Mustangs.
For this mission, Rooster and Mark are leaning on their old buddy Warren Peach for a little fear, sarcasm, and instruction.
We'll hear the rooster crow a little.
Warren taught them to fly the Harvard trainer.
It's been a while since they flew those airplanes, but they're back now to try their hand at the big machine here. This is your first trip in the Mustang. We've got things to talk about.
For their first flight in the P51, Mark and Rooster will each be in the back seat.
This is my first chance to hear a Mustang, to see a Mustang start up, to taxi a Mustang, to see what it's like in flight.
A lot of machinery out there. Don't get fast on the throttle. There's a lot of power there and you can use it, but be smooth with it.
It's time to fly. Mark will be in the back of the Dakota Kid. Warren's up front.
I'm going to be watching everything that is being done in the front.
Rooster will fly with Toby in his plane. But before the boys can take off,
Sounds cool, man.
Rooster notices his ride is running rough. No one's going anywhere until that 12-cylinder Merlin engine is looked at.
We're not going to fly right now. We're going to work on the airplane and take about a 1 hour delay here.
Bottom line, the engine isn't running on all cylinders.
You can't get frustrated by it. Sometimes stuff just doesn't quite work.
After a 2-hour delay,
Prop clear.
Rooster's back in business. The boys are chomping at the bit
We're good to go, okay.
to take these wild horses for a ride.
Taxi beach for takeoff. We may not get 2 flights tonight, but we'll get 1 in anyway, I think. Have you ridden in a Mustang before?
I have never seen a Mustang up close before.
For the first flight, the goal is to give the boys a feel for the World War II fighter.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
We're ready to go.
And maybe a little stick time.
Clear for takeoff, Mustang flight.
The Dakota Kid launches first. Right behind, Rooster and Toby are in hot pursuit.
Miller's up.
Rooster's up.
Right away, both Airdogs feel that big jolt of horsepower.
What's your speed, Toby? 190 right now, indicated.
Flies very much like a jet, like in terms of the handling.
Once at altitude, the Mustangs are put through the paces. Steep turns, stalls, and plenty of G.
We basically went slow, we went fast, we dropped some gear, easy to fly.
This is pretty darn cool, man.
Just being in the airplane and bombing around was awesome.
We're going to get in the airplane for a few minutes and let him fly, Rooster.
Roger there.
It's a perfect night for flying. Calm air, calm instructor, and now a junior Airdog at the controls.
I got a sense of the airplane, the sense of the speed, the sense of the attitudes.
I feel like I'm in a nose-down attitude here.
He had a chance to fly the airplane quite a bit out there in the practice area, and he got a feel for the ailerons and a feel for the energy that the airplane makes and maintains.
It's rare for 2 Mustangs to go out together.
Rooster, you got Miller in sight?
Affirmative, we do.
So Warren can't resist putting the 2 airplanes together for a little formation flying.
That's going to make a nice shot.
Brewster's a formation veteran. He flies the Mustang in tight like he's been on this aircraft for years.
To look out and see another P51 Mustang off our wing, it was fantastic.
It's like turning the clock back to 1942.
We had a great formation flight, and we had a lot of fun out there. To be able to look at the other airplane is always a wonderful thing. Okay, we're going to do a big old barrel roll here.
That looks pretty.
Rolling level.
But all good things must come to an end. After 65 minutes in the air, it's time to bring the Mustangs home.
Ready here, down 3 green.
On final, it's clear this is going to be a handful. At 130 knots, the approach speed is double what Mark is used to.
We were going fast, much faster than anything I've ever been in before.
The sleek, high-speed wing on the Mustang allows it to go fast. The trade-off? Landing speeds also have to be higher, making it much more dangerous down on final.
We're 130 coming over the numbers. We're looking for about 120.
You need to keep your eyes wide open because when you get close to the ground, landing, takeoff, this thing is squirrely.
Warren handled the landing, but on the taxi back, returns the controls to Mark.
I got a Rooster off my left there, and he's crowding me. He just loves doing that guy.
I didn't scare Toby too bad, I don't think.
Oh, nice job.
It was like flying a jet, and you can see why this is the last airplane before the jet age.
That was awesome.
For the Airdogs, the flight was a mere taste of what the airplane can do. Just enough to get their blood pumping. Tomorrow, Warren plans to put the boys to work for real.
The next step is to go through a real instruction, fire the airplane up, let you taxi it from the back seats, do the takeoff with us heavily on the controls.
The only question now, are the boys ready to do some real flying?
I think I'm going to have real trouble handling this airplane.
The Airdogs have roped a high-performance Warbird Classic, the legendary P51 Mustang.
It was meant to shoot airplanes down, fly high speed, do all that stuff, and it does it.
Here's coming up.
After getting a heart-thumping taste on his first flight,
Rolling level.
Rooster can't wait to get back behind the controls of all that horsepower.
In this flight, we're going to go do some acro. We're going to throw the airplane around a little bit.
Don't get in a hurry. If you put the stick ahead real fast, it's going to put the tail up and it's going to give you that swing to the left.
Even for our veteran test pilot, this could be a handful. This will be Rooster's first takeoff in a 1,700 horsepower Mustang.
Okay, we got it running. That's a good start.
Early pilots in Mustangs always needed to be ready for the dangerous torque and gyroscopic effects produced by that massive Merlin engine.
Okay, you have the airplane. You're taxiing.
It was the kind of thing that could send an airplane off the runway and into the junkyard in a flash.
Remember, Rooster, he mostly flies jets. You don't get that in a jet.
But it's pretty clear Rooster paid attention in ground school. As he lifts off, the Mustang stays arrow straight.
Slide off.
And screams into the sky.
Oh, this is cool, man.
But just as things seem to be going perfectly for Rooster, a warning light gets Warren's heart pumping and threatens to cut Rooster's mission short.
Gotta go back. We just got a chip light, Rooster.
A sensor at the bottom of the Merlin engine has detected metal shavings in the oil. It may be the first indication this engine is about to fail.
We'll clean it out when we get on the ground, but I gotta take it back.
But just as quickly as it started, the crisis is over. Warren resets the detector, and the problem goes away.
I just zapped it and it's gone. I got it upside down and surged it around, so I think we're okay.
It's good news for Rooster.
Go ahead and play, Rooster.
Because now, he gets to tear it up.
This will be a up and left. Get a little altitude here, and you can roll it and stuff. Ah, baby. Turn back around and do it going the other way. Roger, jet man.
The last time Rooster landed an airplane with Warren, things got a little out of hand.
There we go. Oh.
When the Harvard got away on him. Rooster can't afford a repeat of that incident.
It just about got me.
With its sleek wing, the Mustang is even more difficult to fly at low speed near the ground.
He seems super high. He's coming in really, really steep.
Whoa, big fella. Slow it up some more.
Rooster's approach is fast and high.
You're going too fast. Slow it up. There you go. That's working good.
But this time, he nails it.
Preparation, what we did before in the Harvard, really served me well.
That was a lot of fun, man. The touchdown was nice. You could have slowed it up just a little bit more, but it worked out fine.
How'd you do?
It was awesome.
First landing from the back seat, I got no complaints.
I just spent Sunday morning flying around in a P51 Mustang, and it was awesome.
One Airdog down, one junior Airdog to go. But before Mark flies, Warren has arranged for a very special meeting with the real Dakota Kid, a man named Noble Peterson.
A pilot takes a lot of interest in his own plane. He figures there's no other plane like it.
The Kid survived dozens of bomber escort missions. He shot down 3 enemy fighters.
When you pulled that trigger and all 6 machine guns went off, jolted your plane enough so that it just pushed you forward like that.
We can fly these around on a nice Sunday afternoon and have a great time, but it was Noble Peterson who made that airplane work.
This restored P51 is dedicated to him and his ground crew.
The opportunity to meet the veterans, the guys that were in the airplanes, and talk to them about their experiences and what it was like. It's been a tremendous experience and a huge honor.
Feeling inspired, Mark is itching to get back into the air, knowing the dangers he faces are nothing compared to what Noble survived.
It seems like a lot of airplane for me.
It is a lot of airplane. Yeah, you'll be fine. It's going to get ready to work out a little bit. Like, go out there and fly the airplane. Don't just sit out there and be a baby with it.
And you are steering the airplane.
Okay.
It's going to feel like a lot of acceleration to you.
And this is the part that's a little worrisome.
Flying this airplane is like driving a race car.
The Airdogs are living the dream.
I'm just letting the airplane talk to me.
Rooster's already had 2 flights in the P51 Mustang. He nailed his mission with a near-perfect landing. Mark's had 1 flight, where he mostly sat back and just watched how Warren managed the systems.
I've got now just a hint, just a taste of what this airplane is capable of.
So we'll actually fly something today.
You're going to fly.
This time, Warren expects Mark to handle the entire mission: radios, taxi, and takeoff. It's a big order for a low-time pilot.
I think the big challenge I face is handling the power.
You know, I said to him this morning, I go, dude, I just want you to concentrate on flying, because right now you're getting into an airplane that needs your attention.
Drop clear. Sit!
Mark cautiously taxis out in the Vintage Beauty.
You are steering the airplane.
Okay, stick to the left.
Bring back memories.
Oh, yes, it certainly does.
Rooster and Noble watch from the side of the runway.
It's going to feel like a lot of acceleration to you. Tail comes up, just kind of stop it right there and let it fly off. I released the brakes and said, there you go, Mark, let's go take off. There you go. A little more power. There you go. Fly it on. Well, there you go. You're flying.
Once we got up off the runway, I mean, my eyes were as big as saucers.
Good job, man.
I honestly was almost in tears. I couldn't believe it.
If there's a spectrometer on this thing, I'm squeezing out diamonds.
As soon as we broke ground, I turned around and looked at him. He was all smiles.
With gear retracted and the airplane cleaned up,
We're looking for traffic. We're looking for the enemy.
Warren lets Mark try his hand at some G-pulling combat maneuvers.
I'm going to have you do one of those yo-yo turns for me, okay?
Okay, turning right.
Yeah, you got it. Now unload a little bit. Right there. Yeah. Yeah. Now start rolling out and start coming back on the stick nice and gently. How about that?
Wow, that was great.
Mark is proving to be surprisingly confident in the airplane. He's adapted quickly. So after 40 minutes of high flying, Warren decides to let him set up the landing.
Drop the nose just a little bit. Just a little bit. That'll hold your speed. You're looking good.
Rooster knows Miller may be biting off more than he can chew.
Low to the ground, you run out of lift, it's not going to give you much warning. It's something that you really have to be concerned about.
Speed's looking good, Mark.
But Mark's approach is looking good.
You're yawing right just a little bit.
Except he's a little off-heading.
Get over the center.
Mark manages to fly the Mustang to within just a few feet of the pavement.
Okay, work with me here. I've got it now.
It's farther than this Airdog ever expected to get.
Nice job, Mark. Okay, Mark, you're taxiing.
It's the end of a perfect day of flying and achieving Airdog dreams.
That was awesome.
Great job. Great job.
I'm surprised at how much Warren let me do.
Oh, man, I was pushing hard. It's like, oh!
He came here to fly a Mustang. That's what we were going to do. And I think he can leave here saying he flew a Mustang.
Noble, it's very nice to meet you.
Same here.
The main purpose of these airplanes is to honor the men and women who brought us through that conflict, with a lot of sacrifice.
When we do this stuff, we have no expectations. These aren't our airplanes. We're just trying to learn about them and learn about the history and the engineering. Felt good?
Oh, it's awesome.
That's one for the logbook, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.